Hey guys, Steve here, and last time we completed a versus battle with Kadabra and Mr. Mime. Today's video will be another special battle of two Bellsprout evolutions that are completely different from one another. These Pokemon being Weepinbell and Victreebel.
Victreebel, use your sleep powder attack! Onyx, no!
I've been looking forward to doing this battle for a long time. On the surface, you'd be like, of course Victreebel is going to win. It has better stats and should learn the same moves. But that's where you're wrong. More on that when we get to the movesets. Let's take a look at the stats on these Pokemon to get a good idea on what to expect during this run. Now, as you can probably imagine, evolving from the same Pokemon line means that the stats are going to basically be the same. In fact, every single one is 15 higher for Victreebel. Both Pokemon share the same weaknesses in Fire, Ice, Flying, Psychic, and double weak to Bug. This is an awful lot of weaknesses, but with a Pokemon that can utilize Sleep Powder, they won't get a lot of chances to take advantage of them. But now, it's time to show you the reason why these two Pokemon are such interesting competitors, and why people are so torn on which one will actually win between them. The starting movesets are incredibly different, one of the most uniquely different starting movesets in the game. Most Pokemon are able to learn via level up all the moves from its prior evolution. However, for some reason, Victreebel cannot learn Growth or Vine Whip. As you guys already know, Growth is a badge boosting move, and if you don't know, make sure to check out Kangastan's video in this video's description. Badge boosting allows you to overcome any problem that you can run into throughout the game. Need more speed? Put a Pokemon to sleep and badge boost. Need to one-shot sweep? Put a Pokemon to sleep and badge boost. Growth is one of the best moves too, because it powers up your special, which works on both offense and defense. Not to mention, Weepinbell can utilize this added special with Mega Drain, giving it an HP advantage in these battles too. But enough about Weepinbell. Why is there a chance that Victreebel can still win? Well, of course it gets the benefits in every stat because of its evolution, but also because its starting moveset includes Acid, Razor Leaf, and Sleep Powder. Weepinbell doesn't learn Sleep Powder or Acid for quite some time, and therefore could run into difficulties having to rely on using only Vine Whips, which only has 10 PP. So the coverage could give it an early game advantage. But if Victreebel runs into any issue it can't overcome, like Sabrina's Alakazam, Weepinbell will get the opportunity to beat it. But Victreebel will have to rely on luck. Victreebel does get one saving grace that Weepinbell does not. Victreebel can learn Body Slam, so I guess I can use that in place of Growth. I personally think Weepinbell is going to win this race, no contest, but what do you guys think? Please make your predictions in the comment section and see if you end up being right. The rules are going to be the same as they always are. They will be located in the description section of this video, or pause the screen if you'd like to see them. All 5 Easter eggs were located in the last video. This video will also have 5. Here are the comments that found Easter eggs in the last video. Please try and guess in the comment section which Pokemon you think will win. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on future videos. If you want to help this channel grow, please comment Bell Battle for the YouTube algorithm. First off, we're going to start the game by grabbing our level 5 Weepinbell and replacing Bulbasaur with the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to make sure that Champ has a Charizard. I give it the nickname Bell because that's what its anime cry sounds like. Charizard will certainly be the most difficult starter to face because of its higher speed than both of our competitors, but also because a late game flamethrower that cannot be avoided can be devastating. Starting with only a grass move has its advantages. First of all, we're going to be able to beat Brock very easily, but Viridian Forest is going to be difficult to get through. Luckily, there's only one mandatory battle in the whole place. Once we've defeated Brock, up next is Mount Moon, so we're just going to go ahead and make our way through Mount Moon. But as I made my way through Mount Moon, I heard a strange sound. I made my way toward this sound. It's coming from the Helix fossil. It's saying, "Please like, subscribe, and comment Bell Battle." It sounds like sound logic, but I need to work my way towards Misty. At this point, things have been very easy for us. We have a grass move in Vine Whip, which is going to do well against Misty, And we have Growth, which will allow us to one-shot or two-shot Starmie. But the real kicker is we've already learned Sleep Powder, which is going to let us set up all of our growths on Staryu. And the domination doesn't stop there. As for Champ 2, we're going to be able to just put Pidgeotto to sleep and set up all of our growths. That will allow us to get through the rest of the team without too much difficulty. I mean, we did expect this. When I went over at the beginning of the game, we knew we were going to have Sleep Powder and Growth, and this was the plan all along. And it's good to see that we have just enough speed to make this plan a reality. With our first 3 major battles in hand, we're going to go ahead and switch over to Victreebel to see just how it's going to approach the beginning of the game. We're once again going to start the game by grabbing our level 5 Victreebel and replacing Bulbasaur with the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to make sure that Champ has a Charizard. I give it the nickname Venus Flytrap because it sounds like a fitting name for its appearance. Now, one of the things that I didn't go over in the beginning was that Razor Leaf is a high crit rate move. And if you have a Pokemon that has over 64 base speed, like Victreebel does, then it's going to crit every single time. More specifically, if you watch Kangastan's video, you'll be able to figure out exactly how that works. I'll make sure to link his Pokemaths playlist in the video description. Normally level 5 or 6 is too low to fight the optional rivals level 9 Pidgey and level 8 starter. However, with a moveset like Sleep Powder and Razor Leaf, we're going to easily be able to get through his team as long as we can land our Sleep Powder and not take too many sand attacks along the way. And because our rival's Charmander hasn't reached level 9 yet, it hasn't learned Ember yet. So that means we're just going to be able to put it to sleep and use Razor Leaf until we finally take it down. If it uses a few scratches along the way, we should be able to just have enough defense to get through it. Unlike Weepinbell, we're actually able to get through Viridian Forest without taking much damage at all because we actually have Acid, which means the level 9 Weedle is not going to be an issue. And then for Brock, we're going to be able to one-shot both Geodude and Onix. The thing that wastes the most time is actually deciding if we want to learn Wrap or not. One of the biggest time saves on this run is that after Brock, we go through Route 3, and usually Route 3 isn't that much of an issue. However, for Weepinbell, all we had was Vine Whip, and that was not going to cut it because Vine Whip only has 10 PP. And yes, we did learn Wrap, but Wrap doesn't last very long either. However, for Victreebel, we're able to have Razor Leaf, which has 25 PP, and we have Acid, which has 30 PP, along with Wrap. So we're able to get through the route without having to waste time going back to a Pokemon Center. Then, for Misty, we don't actually need to waste our time with Sleep Powder and Growth, as Razor Leaf's increased power and crit rate will allow us to get through Staryu and Starmie with one shot each. This will most likely become a trend, as Weepinbell most likely has to set up with Sleep Powder and Growth for most of the big battles, whereas Victreebel can just use its higher power move, Razor Leaf, with the guaranteed crit rate to mostly get through the battles. Even though it's most likely going to take a few extra resets, the battles are going to be faster overall. Now, for Champ 2 here, you're going to see a little bit of a trend. Grass moves seem to be resisted by a lot of Pokemon, and you can see this by our overlay, as our power continues to go down for a lot of Pokemon, and this allows Victreebel to use Acid instead, whereas Weepinbell could not. Once we take a look at the splits here, you can probably see that I've added a new reset column. I think it's actually going to help, so you're able to see just where we can gain or lose time based on resets. As for the current comparison, you can see that Victreebel is just a little bit behind going up to Misty, and that's mostly because we decided to fight Rival 1A early on. But we're starting to gain a lot of time because Weepinbell relies on the Sleep Powder growth strategy in most battles, but Victreebel is just able to use either Razor Leaf or Acid to get through them, saving, a good 10 seconds on like every single battle, and over time that adds up. As we continue on with Victreebel, we then pick up Body Slam on the SSN, and as you can see, this is going to be a major improvement over our old moveset, because we're able to start one-shotting just about every single opponent that resists grass moves or resists poison moves. It's definitely a good third option when it comes to these battles. This then takes us to Lieutenant Surge, where we have a major advantage. We have a pretty decently high special, and we resist electric moves, so honestly, there's not a whole lot that he can do to us. The actual worst threat here is the Voltorb, who can use Sonic Boom and do 20 damage, but our HP is actually not too bad. It's actually quite comical that the Thunder Shock by Raichu only manages to do a few damage, before then going down to the next Razor Leaf. Thanks to my Bellsprout video, I actually remembered that Erica is going to be a free victory, so instead of heading to the mart, I decided to go directly to Erica because her grass moves are going to be quadruple resisted, therefore allowing her to only use Poison Powder. But because we're Poison type, the Poison move is not going to do anything because in Gen 1, you resist whatever type you are, so Electric types can't be paralyzed, Poison types can't be poisoned, and Ice types can't be frozen. Now, my strat going into this run for Victreebel was that we're not going to be able to be a special attacker. So I figured that late in the game we were going to be able to switch over to being a physical attacker. Therefore, when I went to the mart, I picked up Protein, and it goes quite well with Swords Dance. Now, because this is a first run, I decided that I was actually going to save the Swords Dance TM until the very last moment, because I'm going to have to teach over a very good move for Swords Dance. Therefore, I don't know which move that I'm going to need to teach over. Because we can't relearn moves in this game, I have to make sure that I can strategically use Swords Dance at the very last moment. Once I know when this last moment is, I can figure out exactly where is the most optimal point to teach Swords Dance in the second playthrough. But this first playthrough is going to be very difficult because I'm not going to be able to rely on my heavy attack stat. Meanwhile, I've been able to take care of Champ 4 during this downtime because, well, he's Champ 4. When we arrive at Koga, it's very clear that we only have one good move against all his Pokemon, because Poison is resisting Grass and resisting Poison, only allowing us to use Body Slam. Now here's the problem, Body Slam only has 10 PP, and clearly it's taking 3 to 4 PP per Pokemon, so I'm going to run out of Body Slam by the time I get to Weezing. Koga is always interesting because sometimes he uses an X-Defend before self-destruct, sometimes he uses self-destruct immediately, and sometimes he just doesn't use it at all. This is one of those cases where he doesn't use it at all. Now, this is one of those times where having previous experience with another Pokemon will allow you to be able to map out your experience throughout the game. Up until this point, we've been able to rely on Acid, Razor Leaf, and Body Slam with no issues, using Sleep Powder if we don't think we can one-shot, and for the most part, that's been a great plan. But there are a few Pokemon in this game that plan just doesn't work for, because we're not going to outspeed and they're going to do massive damage. The first Pokemon being Alakazam, which can easily hit us for a massive Psybeam before then going to sleep. Of course, we got a critical hit, so we got through that threat. But then Charizard can finish us off with the rest of the damage. After that first reset, we get an even bigger dose of reality as Sleep Powder can miss up to this point, leaving us at low HP for Alakazam. And of course, it outspeeds and takes us out. On the next attempt, exactly the same thing happens, as we don't even get a chance to attack and we get taken out. But on the next attempt, Gyarados decides to hit us with 2 Leers, which puts us in a great position to be able to outspeed the Alakazam thanks to some badge boosts, and that's exactly what happens, and allows us to get through Alakazam with only 1 shot. Then for Gyarados, our fortunate streak comes to an end as we miss our first Sleep Powder, but survive an Ember. Thank God, because now we can go ahead and Body Slam it down to get ourselves the victory and out of this jam. Now, Sabrina's going to be too difficult to battle. We have a pretty mediocre speed Pokemon, and we're weak to Psychic, so that seems to be a bad idea. Now, however, Blaine, on the other hand, well, he's very fond of Super Potions, and his Pokemon are middling speed, so we do stand a pretty good chance. And the only thing that's really important is that we can outspeed both Ponyta and Rapidash so we don't get hit by Fire Spin. Because if we get hit by Fire Spin, we're going to be in, well, a world of hurt every single turn as it just keeps on damaging us over and over again. Luckily, we do outspeed, so it's not a big deal as we just go ahead and put Rapidash to sleep and take it down with a few Body Slams. Followed by Arcanine, where we don't outspeed, which is fine. We just take a medium damage Ember. A Fire Blast certainly would have taken us down, but it's alright as we can just go ahead and Body Slam him down, getting a very lucky win against Blaine. Now, with Blaine under our belt, let's go ahead and switch back to Weepinbell just to see how it's doing. We last left off and it was about to face Champ 3, so let's go ahead and check back in on it. Now, for this battle, Victreebel was able to just learn Body Slam and take it out with a pretty strong attack stat. However, Weepinbell does not have that luxury, so we have to go ahead and put Pidgeotto to sleep, go ahead and set up with a few growths, and then take it down after getting all of our growth setups with Vine Whip. Vine Whip, not a very good option here. Body Slam would have been great, because Body Slam is not being resisted. However, Vine Whip is being resisted. Now, because the rest of his Pokemon aren't the greatest, we are able to get out of some bad situations, but you can definitely see the lack of Acid is really making our moveset kind of bad. Just like Victreebel, Weepinbell is not going to have any issues with Surge. Other than the occasional Sonic Boom from a Voltorb, we're not really going to take damage in this battle, especially after we set up with some growths, because, well, growth boosts our special stat, so along with our resistance to electric moves, we're just going to straight up resist moves that much better. Because, well, electric moves are obviously special, so that's why I felt confident enough to go into this battle without full HP. And as you can see, a crit was the only thing stopping us from one-shotting. Now, with Acid on our side, we're going to have a decent amount of extra PP to work with. Not to mention, Erica is still the same freebie that she always is. Now we just have an extra move that gives us more PP and extra power to work with. It's certainly not a high power move, but in comparison to Vine Whip, it's great. Since Weepinbell can use growth, every calcium that I buy is basically 6 extra special, so why wouldn't I buy only calcium? I'm only able to buy 4, but I mean, that's 24 extra special if I manage to set up all 6 growths. Now, even though you're not seeing this battle side by side with Victreebel, trust me, this is one of the battles where you get to see just how big of a difference there is between Weepinbell and Victreebel, as Victreebel was able to get through this battle with Body Slam, and this battle, however, I have to use Sleep Powder and Growth. Plus, the extra little bit of speed allowed Victreebel to go first, putting Pidgeotto to sleep, therefore not allowing me to take a Sand Attack like Weepinbell has right now. And even though this Sand Attack doesn't affect us very much, a miss every now and again really does hurt the speed of this battle. I mean, we got 2 missed acids there on Gyarados alone. Of course, the rest of the battle isn't actually that difficult, especially since we're able to heal up with Mega Drain. But you can see that this battle, despite me having a major advantage, is still quite the slog. Nothing continues on this point more than the Koga battle. I mean, take a look at this. We're going to go ahead and set Coughing to sleep, as we expect. Then, we're going to start with our growth setup, which, you know, is pretty decent. Nothing really goes wrong. Coughing doesn't wake up early, and we start our Mega Drain. Here's the problem. Mega Drain doesn't have a whole lot of PP left thanks to the previous battles leading up to this one. Not that it really matters, because you can see that Mega Drain and Acid are going to do the same amount of damage, one of them doing special damage and the other one doing physical damage, which, in this case, the special one would do more damage, so it's not great that I didn't bother to go ahead and heal before this battle or use an elixir, which would have made a pretty big difference. Now, I decided not to learn Razor Leaf here because, well, Mega Drain's going to give me an advantage in the late game that Razor Leaf's not going to give me. Plus, we don't have a high enough speed to get guaranteed critical hits. Luckily, Weezing never picks self-destruct during the turn that it's awake, and we get the win, so there appears to be a trend forming. Even though we're getting first try victories, they are not fast. Yes, the Sleep Powder Growth combination is great, but we're not getting a great time. We might get a good time relative to Bellsprout, but Victreebel is speeding through the game. But, on the other hand, Weepinbell has an advantage that Victreebel doesn't have. In this matchup, you can see that we're very close to leveling up. And honestly, I didn't notice this, but I'm now setting up all my growths here on Pidgeot, despite knowing that my badge boosts are going to disappear after leveling up. But one thing to note is, you gotta remember that badge boosting moves on their own, great, yes, but growth just increases my special. So, whereas on Victreebel, Alakazam and Charizard can take me out in a single hit, here I now have 380 special, so the Psybeam that I take from Alakazam doesn't do a whole lot. Therefore, when I get to Charizard, I can put it to sleep after taking an Ember. As you can see, even with a critical hit Ember, I still do not get taken out. Now, critical hit aside, that would have taken me out if it were a flamethrower. Luckily it was not. But as you can see, I still have my advantages in the difficult battles. Again, the same exact effect happens here with Blaine. We're going to go ahead and put Growlithe to sleep. I'm going to go ahead and start raising my special as high as I can, and then once it's high enough, I don't even need to really consider putting it back to sleep. I do because of force of habit, but as you can see, at this point, with 416 special, there's not a whole lot Blaine can really consider doing. And because I went into this battle with a low amount of XP needed until the next level, I'm not going to level up during this entire battle, which means I get to keep all of the badge boosts, furthering this easiness that is Blaine. Of course, he's not going to do much anyways, but there is always a chance that he gets a critical hit, and that's probably the only thing that can take me out. Now that both Pokemon have caught up again, let's take a look at the splits. As you can see, Victreebel is now taking an even bigger lead. Now you're probably wondering, how in the world is that possible? I mean, Weepinbell has no resets and Victreebel only has 3. Well, the thing is, throughout Kanto, poison types are the most common types throughout the game, and the problem is, grass and poison moves are not good against poison types, therefore making me have to set up with growth and sleep powder quite often. So that means every time that Victreebel is able to complete a battle with just Body Slam, that means it's saving time on every single battle that we have to set up with sleep powder and growth with Weepinbell. However, don't forget, things are getting a little bit more difficult there for Victreebel. The last champ battle had Alakazam and Charizard threatening resets, so there's a pretty good chance that the Champ 6 or the Champion encounter might be too much for Victreebel to handle. Now, with the special badge boost in hand thanks to Blaine, we should hopefully be able to fight Sabrina on equal footing. But an unfortunate early crit from Kadabra leaves us in bad shape, as it hits us with a critical hit and then eventually wakes up and takes us out with a Psychic. On the next attempt, things go a little bit smoother as we're not hit with a critical hit Psybeam on turn 1, and then Kadabra decides to stay asleep for a little bit longer as I can put it back to sleep and continue my setups with growth. Once fully set up, I can then use Mega Drain to replenish some of that HP that I had lost, followed by Mr. Mime, who I then use another Mega Drain and replenish the rest of the HP that I lost. Then, for Venomoth, I use an Acid, which doesn't end up taking it down, despite our badge boosts. But that doesn't matter because we don't level up, and therefore we're able to outspeed Alakazam, put it to sleep, and take it out with 2 Acids. This then gives us a little bit of time to work with, as Giovanni is not very much of an issue whatsoever. His Pokemon are allergic to grass moves, which is great because that's what our main attacking move is. Anyways, this allows us to get a little bit of time and talk about how this run is going. As you can probably imagine, Weepinbell has been doing quite a bit better than Bellsprout. Now, I'm a little bit surprised on how Victreebel is playing, but again, there still are some possible hardships that it can run into. But we're going to have to wait and see once we get up to Champ 2 and then switch back over to Victreebel. But hopefully in our second run, we're able to fix up the mistakes, because you guys already know badge boosting Pokemon have a much better time in their second run. Once we arrive at Champ 6, things start to get a little bit more difficult. We're going to go ahead and put Pidgeot to sleep, even though it really doesn't want to go to sleep. But it's not going to matter, because after we have all of our growth set up, we're going to be able to just take it out using some Mega Drains. Even though it's being resisted, our special is going to be so high it's not going to matter whatsoever. However, this Pidgeot, boy, it did not want to stay asleep. It hit us a few times before we could even get it to sleep once. But it's not going to matter because the Hyper Potion is next, and that's Rhyhorn, which then takes us to Execute. An Acid will take that one down, no problem, followed by Gyarados, who we're going to take down with some Mega Drains. Again, just trying to get ourselves some of our HP back. However, we then level up going into Alakazam, which is a big no-no. We get hit by a critical hit Psychic, which takes us out. Okay, simple problems require simple solutions. Use 1 rare candy before this battle and we don't level up going into Alakazam, which allows us to outspeed and take it down with 2 Acids. However, this causes us to level up, and now for Charizard we're going to have to take a Flamethrower, which doesn't end up doing a whole lot of damage. Then, on the next turn, it woke up, we used a Mega Drain, and it hit us back with a Flamethrower, and it crit. Okay, so be it. Critical hit Flamethrower is our only weakness, and the only thing that's going to stop us from winning. So, what do you think's going to happen on the next attempt? Ah, yes. another critical hit flamethrower. Now, I want you guys to note something. We started Champ 6 at 49 minutes. We're currently at 54 minutes. So each one of these attempts takes nearly 2 minutes at 4 times speed. And what happens? We get hit by another critical hit flamethrower. But on the next attempt, the unthinkable happens. Critical hit flamethrower be gone, as we can finally set Charizard to sleep and slowly whittle it down with some acids. Not gonna lie, that may have killed Weepinbell's chance at winning this race. However, next attempt, we're going to save a lot of time at that spot. There's no way that Charizard hits that many critical hit flamethrowers in a row. Anyways, let's go ahead and check right back in on Victreebel to see how it's doing all the way up to Champ 6. Victreebel then faces Sabrina, who starts with her Kadabra, and we go ahead and try a Sleep Powder, miss, get hit by a critical hit Psychic, and taken down on the word go. On the next attempt, we go ahead and miss another Sleep Powder and get hit by another critical hit. But this time, we actually managed to survive, put Kadabra to sleep, and now we're surviving on a Sliver, with our special being dropped on top of that. Luckily, Mr. Mime stays asleep, and now Venomoth falls asleep, and we can go ahead and take that down in 2 hits, followed by Alakazam, which then takes us out with a Psywave. Luckily on the next attempt, we don't get hit by a critical hit, and we don't get a special drop, which allows us to get to the Alakazam with a decent amount of HP. And then she only uses Reflect, which allows us to get a Body Slam in, and thanks to a crit, we get the win. Now, the next battle is going to be basically the easiest one of the match. We're not going to do anything other than spamming Razor Leaf, and we're going to get through very quickly, so I'm going to speed up the footage a little bit extra so we can work our way over to Champ 6. Now, I'm not really sure how this one's going to go, so we're just going to test the waters. It appears that for Pidgeot, it's going to be a 3-hit KO with Body Slam. So that's a pretty good start considering we're going to outspeed Pidgeot. Then of course we take care of Rhyhorn quickly, followed by Execute in 2 shots. Now Gyarados could be a little random depending on the Sleep Powder luck, but as long as it stays asleep, we can get some Razor Leafs off and it won't make too much of a fuss. Now as we already know, Alakazam can be a very big problem. Luckily it only used a Reflect, which isn't too bad considering we got a crit there on a Body Slam. But now Charizard's going to outspeed, hit us with a massive flamethrower, followed by us using some Body Slams. Unfortunately, it woke up, and since it goes first, it can take us out. Now, that previous battle went just a little too well. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what a battle could look like if things didn't go well. Well, Alakazam can outspeed, do massive damage with Psybeam, followed by a miss Sleep Powder, and then taking us out the next turn. That can surely happen. Also, Alakazam could easily just get a crit, because you know it's one of the fastest Pokemon in the game, so that can also happen. Turns out, if you use 3 rare candies to get to the next damage range, it still is not going to go that much better, as Alakazam is still going to outspeed, we're still going to do a 3-hit KO. However, the difference here is now we're going to outspeed the Charizard, which allows us to get a Sleep Powder off before then using Body Slam, which it stays asleep and we get the win. Now that both Pokemon are all caught up once again, we can take a look at the splits. Now, as you can probably imagine, the splits here for Champ 6 are the real big difference. For Weepinbell, things got a little dicey as we took a bunch of resets thanks to Charizard critting Flamethrower and Alakazam outspeeding. Meanwhile, Victreebel, despite getting 2 fewer resets, saved a lot more time. 3 minutes in fact, because it didn't have to set up growth on each attempt. It can just go right there to the next attempt very quickly. See, the difference here is Victreebel, yes, it's going to take a shot from both the Charizard and the Alakazam, but as long as neither one of them crits, which, you know, combined is about 40% chance, so it's definitely not impossible for that to happen. But then again, we're able to get through quick enough to the next attempt, so that way you can do it again. Meanwhile, Weepinbell has to do it right the first time, and if either of those 2 crit, then things go very poorly and it's a big waste of time setting up all those growths. Now, with a bit of manipulation with rare candies, the second run might go a lot more smoothly, So we'll go ahead and wait and see how that goes. But for now, Victreebel has a pretty solid lead, but let's see how that goes in the rest of the Elite Four. Now, for Lorelei, I'm not too worried. I mean, other than missing a sleep powder and then getting hit by an ice move, her Pokemon are relatively slow. So we're going to go ahead and crit her Pokemon back to back and see which ones cause problems. Hopefully we can just get through one-shotting all of our Pokemon. I mean, clearly the Slowbro there was 2 shots, but Jinx here did not take 1 shot. That's a bit unfortunate. And now Lapras. Ooh, that sucks. On the next attempt, I make sure to try and use Sleep Powder whenever possible, because clearly we were not one-shotting every Pokemon, and I needed to be a little bit more careful, so that way Lapras doesn't hit me with another Blizzard and end the run. Luckily, the next battle is just the Black Belt, and well, quite frankly, he always sucks. So I'm not really worried in any sense of the word. I don't even bother trying to put his Pokemon to sleep. I just go with my straight offensive Lorelei strategy, and it seems to be working. Even Machamp does survive, but wastes its turn with an X defend. Now, we're going to be woefully unprepared for the Agatha battle. I don't know if you guys watched my Vileplume or my Bellsprout run, but we don't really have significantly better moves against this matchup. In fact, all we have is Razor Leaf and Acid. The only thing we have going for us is that we have Sleep Powder in an okay speed stat, but there's really not a lot of room for error when you can only 5-hit the opponent. Luckily, I'm able to take down the Gengar, and when we get to the Golbat, I put it right back to sleep, start body slamming it, it wakes up and takes us out with a wing attack. The next attempt goes very poorly as we start out with a Hypnosis and start taking some Nightshades and Dream Eaters, as she switches out to Golbat, which does absolutely nothing, before then switching back to Gengar and finishing us off with a Nightshade. On the following attempt, we have a real back and forth with Gengar, and she switches back to Golbat, followed by Gengar, back to Golbat, and we hit ourselves in confusion just a little too much. But on the next attempt, Gengar decides to confuse us on turn 1, and then switch out to Golbat on turn 2 as Golbat takes almost nothing from our Razor Leaf as we then start taking it out with some Body Slam, going right back into the original Gengar. So we then start using Razor Leaf on Gengar doing very little damage, but we have literally no other option as about 82 power is, pretty good considering Acid is our only other replacement. It's actually kind of cool that our Body Slam says 0 instead of dash thanks to Scott's thoughts, as we then arrive back to Haunter and take it out with a Razor Leaf as it decides to finally stay asleep. Now, for Arbok, we finally get to use our Body Slam. So, we finally get to make use of our best attack in this situation against her Arbok. Going into the Gengar, paralyzed is not too bad. I mean, as long as we don't get fully paralyzed. We put the Gengar to sleep, and it stays asleep for a little bit, but unfortunately 2 fully paralyzed later puts us in an okay position as she's not able to really do much. She's got Dream Eater, but yet does not have Hypnosis, which is pretty good for us. But after a frustrating battle, we finally get the win. Now's about time to switch back over to Weepinbell to see just how it's going to do during the league. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the setup portion because we've probably seen enough of that during this run. So, fully powered up, Mega Drain's able to do about half the Dugong, followed by the Cloyster, in which we can do all of the damage in one hit, followed by getting rid of the inaccurate Slam. Then, for Slowbro, we're going to continue our Mega Drain onslaught as we make it to Jinx, who I switched to Acid because it's weak defensively. Turns out, that doesn't matter when your attack stat is garbage. Stray critical hit Ice Punch aside, then, on the next attempt, we go ahead and start setting up. Unfortunately, I'm just not fast enough to read when it says, woke up, because it happens twice in this battle, and the Dugong manages to take me out. But on the next attempt, things go a little bit better as I'm actually able to put the Jinx to sleep. And then, for Lapras, turns out, is actually just a one-shot. I don't even need to put it to sleep. On the bright side, when you take unnecessary resets like that one, then on the second run, you know what to look out for. So, on the next run, I'll make sure to pay attention and put certain Pokemon to sleep, like Jinx and Lapras, so that way I don't get hit by a stray Ice Punch or a stray Blizzard. it's finally time to see where Weepinbell might shine, because this Agatha battle gave Victreebel some troubles. Hopefully for Weepinbell, things will go a little bit easier, as we're then able to go ahead and put Golbat to sleep and continue setting up the rest of our growths. However, we don't have Body Slam, so we're going to need to take down Golbat with some Acid, which could end up being an issue if it ends up waking up. Luckily, things go pretty well as it doesn't wake up, and because we used a rare candy before we started, we're going to retain our speed boost and we can put Gengar to sleep early too. And thanks to all of our growths, Mega Drain is going to do massive damage on all of these ghost types, despite being resisted, because 567 special is pretty darn high. And if we take a Nightshade at any point, we're using Mega Drain, so we're gonna get our HP back too. So we just work our way through her team, slowly whittling them down with Acids and Mega Drains thanks to our high stats, and by the time we get to the final Gengar, we actually haven't leveled up, which is perfect. So that means next attempt, we're gonna be able to do this too. Slow and Steady actually won the race with this one, and Acid just did the job. Now, when we take a look at the splits here, it appears that we actually saved ourselves nearly 2 minutes on this Agatha encounter. So, we actually have a chance of coming back, at least a little bit. We already know that Victreebel is definitely going to struggle on the champion, because Victreebel doesn't have any way to gain HP back, and Alakazam and the Charizard are going to both damage it, at least once apiece. Now, if you guys watched my Bellsprout video, you pretty much know how this battle's gonna go. We have the exact same moveset, the opponents are gonna have the exact same strategies, and we're gonna have a little bit more defense and a lot more special than before. The plan is going to be very similar to the previous ones. Put the opponent to sleep, then use Growth, then take them out with Mega Drain or Acid. Pretty simple. The reason why this battle is so simple is because both of the Dragonairs and the Dragonite are only going to use Agility, therefore making the only Pokemon that are even remotely an issue are the Gyarados and the Aerodactyl, and we have no issue taking at least one hit, probably even a critical hit Hyper Beam thanks to our at least boosted defense over Bellsprout. This then takes us to the champion, where you can probably imagine our strategy is not going to change. Put Pidgeot to sleep, set up with most of our growths. Unfortunately, I did not use a rare candy before the start of this battle, so we're in the middle of our level. I did do this on purpose, however, I forgot to actually execute the plan. The plan here was to take out Pidgeot, then set up on the Rhydon. However, I forgot, and therefore I set up on the Pidgeot. So, when we level up, we're going to lose our increased speed and settle for anything else that's going to happen throughout this battle. I did forget that Alakazam was next, so setting up on Pidgeot was the bright idea. It just so happens that we're not going to be able to set up with our badge boost in this match. However, we didn't really take that much damage from Alakazam, so we're in great shape as we can then just whittle it down with some Acids, taking us to the Rhydon. Then we can heal up on Rhydon because it's basically a mid-game Hyper Potion taking us to Executor, in which Acid is going to be the primary move here as long as we don't fall asleep with Hypnosis. Executor is only going to spam Hypnosis because it thinks we're weak to it. Luckily, it never woke up and we move on to Gyarados, in which we slowly whittle it down with some Mega Drains. Then for Charizard, we're not going to outspeed. It misses a Fire Spin and we get real lucky. Unfortunately, I did not notice it woke up and we get hit by a Fire Blast crit. Alright, that one is on me. In my defense though, the waking up text is a lot faster than the staying asleep text, and it's very difficult to take my hand off of the rapid fire button that quickly. Hopefully, on the next attempt, things don't go that poorly. However, I couldn't be more wrong, as on the next attempt, the Gyarados is then able to use a Hyper Beam, and it ends up critting, taking us out. On the next attempt, I don't even bother making it past the second turn, as a Sky Attack is able to one-shot us, without a crit. The stars finally align on the next attempt as we're finally able to not get crit, and we can finally set the Charizard to sleep after eventually taking a Fire Blast that does only 41 damage. After that, we can just go ahead and Mega Drain the Charizard down until we finally get the win. It's a little bit slow, but, you know, this kind of thing happens when you're only using a Mega Drain on a Pokemon that double resists grass attacks. So that's a few resets there on the champion. Let's go ahead and check back in on Victreebel to see how it's going to finish up the run. Not much is going to change in this Lance battle, as we don't really have anything to set up. We're just going to use Razor Leaf and pray that we do a lot of damage. Thanks to our superior defense, we're going to be able to just tank whatever Gyarados and Aerodactyl are going to be able to do to us. It doesn't take long before we eventually get to Dragonite, but as we mentioned before, double resistances really suck, and you can see that our damage is very low, and for some reason I don't bother switching to Body Slam for quite some time, which is very baffling. Alright, Big Kahuna, the champion. Let's go ahead and set Pidgeot to sleep as we then start to Body Slam it down. Of course it wakes up, but that's alright because we take it down. Alakazam does not go as planned. As we get hit by a Psychic, our Sleep Powder misses and we get hit by another Psychic for our first reset. On the next attempt, things go a little bit better as we're going to be able to put Alakazam to sleep and take it out with just a few Body Slams. Then, Rhydon is allergic to a Razor Leaf as it's quadruple effective. As for Exeggutor, we then have a Sleep Powder followed by a few Acids. Then for Gyarados, I accidentally forget to put her to sleep. It hits me with a pretty decent Hyper Beam. I go ahead and put her right back to sleep. Then use some Razor Leaves to start taking it down. Forget to put it to sleep, and the next Hyper Beam takes me out. One thing to note here is you never heard me say that it recharged. Because, well, it never did between sleeps. So, that's another thing that Gen 1's great for. Then, on the next attempt, I attempt to put Pidgeot to sleep and it mirror moves and puts me to sleep, which then sets up for a Sky Attack to take us out after 2 turns. Then, on the next attempt, Alakazam is able to hit us with a critical hit Psybeam. After that loss, I realized enough is enough and I really need to do something. I've saved Swords Dance up to this point and I did take that extra protein earlier in the run. So, there's no better time to use Swords Dance than now. Acid is the perfect move to teach over because I was only using it for Exeggutor, and once I am fully set up with Swords Dance, I should be able to just Body Slam it. On the very next attempt, I go ahead and put Pidgeot to sleep, start setting up my Swords Dance, and now I actually have a little bit extra speed, so there's a chance I might outspeed the Alakazam. I then decide, screw putting it back to sleep, and I use a Body Slam. Of course it doesn't take it out, but that's fine. Now, I missed the Alakazam, and I realized, oh, I outsped. Let's just try a Body Slam, and that works. Then, for Rhydon, just a Razor Leaf will do. It did well before. That brings us to Exeggutor, and now we're going to have to use Body Slam after using a Sleep Powder. And it looks like Body Slam's going to do pretty decent damage, as even a crit is able to do half. Followed by Gyarados, where now a Body Slam is going to be able to one-shot it. And after this level up, I now have a speed tie with Charizard, and I get to go first and put it to sleep as the Body Slam then takes care of it in one single hit. With that win, we finish the game with Victreebel at level 61 with 1 hour real time, 328 game time, and 16 resets. And we finish with Weepinbell at level 55, 108 real time, and 357 game time with 11 resets. You may have heard a short emphasis there on the Weepinbell level. Yeah, that's right, we finished at level 55, which means there's a lot of room where I can use rare candies to improve the time in the second run. But as far as the splits on this first run are concerned, you can see that the finale with the champion, I lost a lot of time, despite 1 fewer resets there with Weepinbell. So you can see that it is a major advantage not having to set up with growth every single time. As far as the next run is concerned, there's a lot of room for growth, pun intended. Weepinbell can use its rare candies before each big battle to make sure that it doesn't level up in the middle, whereas Victreebel can use Swords Dance at an earlier point in the game, so that way it's able to get through the fights even faster. So normally in a race, the Pokemon with Badge Boost is going to have an advantage and it's going to improve its time by a lot in the second run. But because of Swords Dance, things might actually get even better for Victreebel in the second run. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But before then, it's about time for my creator shoutout. Today's creator shoutout is RBY Pokemon Challenges. His channel has changed quite a bit since I did my last shoutout for him, but now he's trying to beat the game with great Pokemon on minimum battles and no TMs, but allows for deviations at the cost of final ranking points. You're just gonna have to check out his channel to figure out what I mean by that. But anyways, here's a clip from one of his most recent videos that I absolutely loved.
Okay, now he's in Bide, so... Oh, Bide is disabled. Haha, Bide is disabled, which means he can't use Bide. Oh, we got him. Oh, we got him. Brocky boy goes down. That's the strat. Disable Bide while he's in Bide.
Alright, now time to see how our competitors are going to fare on their second run. To start the run, I make sure to rename our Pokemon Bellsprout and Jamesbane. Jamesbane for the simple reason that James keeps on getting eaten by his own Victreebel. The first battle with our rival is obviously going to be easy, just like it was the first time, so we're going to go ahead and speed right past it. Brock is once again going to be a one-shot sweep, no point in watching through everything. Misty is once again going to be a sweep, as Victreebel is going to be able to get through the team with Razor Leaf, and Weepinbell is going to be able to just use Growth and then get through the team with Vine Whip. Around now is where you're going to start seeing that Victreebel is going to be able to start saving a lot of time on each battle because, well, Razor Leaf is able to crit on every single attack, which sometimes it's resisted, sometimes it's not, but regardless, Razor Leaf is still going to be a good attack. And it's got pretty decent special, so now it's saving a lot of time. As you can see, it's already starting on the next battle before Weepinbell is able to even beat the rival. On this next battle with Champ 3, you're able to see the disparity even further, as we're able to get through the entire team before Weepinbell is able to even get through Pidgeotto alone. Now take a look at those times. We're already a minute ahead and we haven't even beaten Surge yet. Speaking of Surge, another battle where we can actually get through the entire team once again before even getting through the first Pokemon. As you can see, the Sleep Powder growth setup takes much longer than you really think. Next up is Erica, and neither of our competitors are going to have a difficulty whatsoever. In fact, they're not even going to take any damage. The only difference here is Victreebel is able to 3-shot the other Victreebel and the Vileplume, whereas Weepinbell takes a 4-shot on the Victreebel and Vileplume. Now, for Weepinbell, nothing is going to change. However, for Victreebel, we're going to be getting Carbos instead. And this is because at the end of the game, we almost were able to outspeed the Charizard. Instead, we had a speed tie. Hopefully this extra speed and maybe a level or two might make up the difference and we'll be able to outspeed the Charizard in the end. For Koga, we have two very different strategies going on. Yes, the first step is to put Coughing to sleep. And for Weepinbell, we go ahead and just set up all of our growths. However, for Jamesbane here, all we have to do is use our neutrally effective Body Slam to get through the team after putting things to sleep. Both strategies are effective, however, for Victreebel, things go a little bit faster, but Weepinbell can catch up because Mega Drain with 6 growths is going to be a very potent combination. As we make it to Champ 6, the difficulty starts to ratchet up just a little bit, as now we have to spend a little bit more time setting up and making sure that we don't get hit. Things aren't going to be nearly as easy as they were before. However, for both of our challengers, we seem to be going through without too much difficulties whatsoever. However, that is not going to be the case in the near future, as Charizard only knows Ember at this point, and that's going to change in the next battle with him. I decided that the Champ 5 battle was going to be the battle where I was going to teach Swords Dance, so now we're going to be able to get through Blaine without having to worry too much about the fire types, especially since we're going to be able to most likely outspeed unless we level up. However, for Weepinbell here, it appears that our damage is so incredibly low that I now am forced to use Growth here on Ponyta, which I wasn't going to want to do because I really wanted to be able to do it after Ponyta. That way, I'd be able to outspeed both Rapidash and Arcanine. And this is because Rapidash loves to use Fire Spin, and as you can see, we're now trapped in Fire Spin. And the second use of Fire Spin then gets a crit, and we never get out of it. On the next attempt, I use a rare candy at the start of the battle, so that way when I used my growth setup on the previous Ponyta, I was able to actually maintain the speed and outspeed and put Arcanine and Rapidash to sleep, allowing my Mega Drains to do significant damage and them never to wake up and hit me. Meanwhile, I actually had to slow down the Victreebel footage in order to catch up. And things for Sabrina don't really change that much either, as Victreebel is able to just pretty much 1 or 2-shot every one of her Pokemon. Meanwhile, for Weepinbell, we have to grind. We can't miss any sleep because we've taken 2 hits from Kadabra already. Luckily, Kadabra decides not to evade any of our future sleep powders, and we're able to Mega Drain, get some of our HP back, and start to sweep the team. If any of our sleep powders miss or our Mega Drains don't one-hit KO, we're probably going to get one-hit KO'd by a Confusion, a Psybeam, or a Psychic from any of her Pokemon. Luckily, Weepinbell doesn't run into any issues as none of her Pokemon are able to actually outspeed or any of our sleep powders to miss. So at least we're going to be able to keep kind of pace with Victreebel. As you guys can probably imagine at this point in the run, Weepinbell's not going to win. But just take a look. We are actually making pretty good time. We're very far ahead of our first run, and I'm pretty proud of our progress on both of our competitors. As I mentioned, a few extra levels and rare candies in the right places are making Weepinbell's times a little bit more competitive, and Swords Dance is making Victreebel more competitive. Turns out, Acid was just not very good after a certain amount of time because Body Slam was just able to be used on every Pokemon that's not a rock type. Alright, well, Champ 6 is probably going to be the great equalizer of the run. So, as you can probably imagine, we need to be on our A game. I make sure to start off with a rare candy since we learned that on the Weepinbell run. As you can tell, we haven't gained any experience yet, so I go ahead and set up all my growths. Meanwhile, Victreebel's already on Rhyhorn, allowing me to set up with our 3 Swords Dance and get our Razor Leaf in, which is not going to be affected by Swords Dance. Then, Body Slam's going to be able to take out Execute, going to take out Gyarados, and that takes us to Alakazam, which then we're able to take out with Body Slam, followed by Charizard, which we should just take out with a Body Slam, if it doesn't go first and takes us out with a Flamethrower first. Meanwhile, Weepinbell is just there, slow and steady, making sure to use Mega Drains and Acids slowly, buying its time until it gets to Charizard, in which it misses 2 Sleep Powders and gets hit by a critical hit Flamethrower, not once, but twice! Oh boy, I really wish I could make this up. Eventually, both of our competitors are going to be able to make it through and get to Charizard and have it not use a critical hit Flamethrower, so that way we can take it out. Lorelei is then the first member of the Elite Four, and we're going to go ahead and use what we learned on our first run to our advantage. Dugong is going to use only Rest there to start, so we don't even need to bother putting it to sleep, as Victreebel is going to just Razor Leaf it, while Weepinbell is just able to set up. Now, there was a chance that Aurora Beam happened, and I forgot about that, but that's okay, as both of our competitors are now on Slowbro, and as you can see, Slow and Steady is winning the race now for Weepinbell. However, Victreebel then gets taken out by an Ice Punch, followed by another Ice Punch, and guess what? A third Ice Punch! Yeah, I know that was in quick succession, but we're getting up here in time, so I need to make sure to go through this quickly. As you can probably imagine, 3 resets is not going to be very good for Victreebel's time, and that's honestly just because I was too lazy to use Sleep Powder. If I had a third run, I would probably right the mistake. Meanwhile, as you can see, we took another reset there on Lapras, just because I didn't bother to use Sleep Powder. I decided to skip the Black Belt altogether, just because, well, we only used Vine Whip and Razor Leaf. There was literally nothing to the battle. In fact, as far as the splits are concerned, we only gained 7 seconds with Victreebel, and that's only because of Razor Leaf. Now, as we've seen in the past, this battle is going to be brutal. It mostly goes down to Sleep Lock, but once Weepinbell is able to get set up with Growth, then Mega Drain can just plow through the team, and because her best move is Nightshade, there's not really much she can do other than us defeating ourselves thanks to Confuse Ray hits. But as far as Victreebel is concerned, there's not much we can do. Yes, Razor Leaf is going to do more damage than Mega Drain. However, with full setup with Growth, we're doing about the same amount of damage. But as you can see, Victreebel is already on the final Gengar with full HP, and it's asleep, so this one's going pretty darn well for Victreebel. Agatha uses some super potions, but that's not enough, as Nightshade then hits us. Razor Leaf almost takes it out, we hit ourselves in confusion, and then another. Yes, that's right, just a bit of a misdirect. I thought that was really fun. I mean, we really did have the win in the bag, and it was stolen from us, but as you can see, Victreebel is doing just fine in the next attempt. We're able to get back to the final Gengar without too many issues, and even though Razor Leaf isn't doing the damage we want, she stays asleep just long enough for us to get the win. Then along came Lance, as we're just able to go ahead and put Gyarados to sleep, and as we mentioned before, it's going to be a free win as long as we don't make any stupid mistakes. The only thing to really watch out for is to make sure that Gyarados goes to sleep and that we don't take a Hyper Beam from either Gyarados or Aerodactyl. Except there's one small problem. Victreebel leveled up, So now it's not going to outspeed the Aerodactyl, leaving it to chance if we get hit by a critical hit, which we do by the way, leaving us very low on HP, and the next bite then takes us out. But on the next attempt, things go according to plan, we're able to get through the Aerodactyl, and the Dragonite is no problem. Finally, the champion. Well, let's go ahead and see if either one of them are going to struggle during this battle. Hopefully we can get through without too many difficulties, as we get Pidgeot to sleep and start setting up on both of them. Now, you can see that Victreebel is about to level up, so we're not going to gain the speed advantage. That's going to suck for Alakazam and Charizard. Hopefully that won't come back to bite us. Looks like Alakazam just uses a Reflect, which is great. Then, Rhydon is going to go down to a single Razor Leaf, followed by Executor, which we're going to use a Body Slam instead of Acid, and that's probably even better than Acid would have done. Now for Gyarados, we take a little bit of damage, and the golden moment, the Charizard. We outspeed, take it down, and get the win. So that extra Carbos absolutely mattered. Back to Weepinbell, we're taking down Rhydon at full HP. Then we're going to use Acid on Executor, taking it down in appears to be 2 hits thanks to a Hypnosis miss, followed by Gyarados, which promptly falls asleep, takes a Mega Drain, doesn't go down but stays asleep, then goes down to the next Mega Drain as we move in on Charizard. It misses a Fire Splin, we get a Sleep Powder, it decides to stay asleep, we start whittling it down with Acid, it appears not to be waking up so far, which is great. It wakes up, now we got one more turn, it misses another Fire Spin, and we get the win. We finished the game with Weepinbell at level 61 with 58 real time, 349 game time, and 3 resets, as well as finishing the game with Victreebel at level 62 with 52 real time, 311 game time, and 7 resets. If we take a look at the splits, we'll actually notice that both of our competitors shaved off a lot of time. In fact, they shaved off so much time, it looks like the first run almost. However, they were a little bit closer than you'd originally anticipate. Now, this is mostly because of bad gameplay. If you take a look there at the Lorelei split, a lot of that could have been solved with some sleep powders. And then, for the Lance split, once again, could have been solved with a sleep powder. But regardless, it looks like Victreebel is our winner today. I'm actually quite shocked. Let's go ahead and take a look at both of the runs. I actually find it quite comical that you can definitely tell where I added all of the extra training in the early game. And this was also true for the Mr. Mime vs. Kadabra run. It's actually quite comical just how much extra training in the beginning of the game really does matter. Now, of course, there is the fact that Weepinbell was able to finish the first run at such a low level, and after using the rare candies at the beginning of the league, we don't get a single loss after Champ 6. Now for Victreebel here on the right, you can definitely tell I added Swords Dance around Gym 7, and you can see that my resets have dropped significantly after that. However, once we enter the Elite Four, the resets start stacking up, and most of that is honestly my error. And honestly, I could definitely cut a lot more time off of this run if I had done a third run like Lapras. It's nice when a plan comes together. We came in with a plan on the second run, and the plan actually worked. Just a bit of unluckiness there with some Flamethrower crits and some Ice Punch crits, but other than that, you know, things went as well as we planned. As for the rankings, it's going to be a little bit difficult to place some of these because the playstyle is very different for both of the Pokemon. Weepinbell was basically the same as Bellsprout, just with better stats. So I can't really give it that much higher of a ranking than Bellsprout, especially since its time isn't that much better. Nor was it able to just straight up waltz through the game like any of the Pokemon in the S tier was able to do. So despite an under 1 hour time, I think the first spot in the A tier is probably going to be it for Weepinbell. Now, for Victreebel, this one is going to be controversial. See, the thing here is, Vileplume is basically Victreebel. However, Victreebel is quite a bit better than Vileplume statistically. Vileplume got very, very lucky on its run, getting 0 resets. And honestly, any of those resets were very luck-based on Victreebel. If I were to have played this run again and gotten even half of the amount of resets, I'm pretty sure I would have not only tied, I probably would have bested Vileplume. So, even though the time doesn't look good and the numbers don't look good, I'm still putting it above Vileplume for the capabilities that the Pokemon does possess. Thanks to my first and only patron, Speedrunner0218, I have now decided that I am going to be doing Muck vs. Weezing next. If you'd like a Pokemon to be done, make sure to comment on this or any of my other videos. If you have any suggestions for a challenge, ways to improve my strategy, maybe even a way to improve the quality of my videos, feel free to let me know in the comments section below. My channel is always improving, and every video I plan to bring you even better content. Keep the suggestions coming, and I look forward to bringing you another video. Now, Pokerep time, including Speedrunner0218.